This tutorial is a response to a request from 6's Komodo 6, who wanted to know how I get the soldiers in some of my videos to perform different animations and how to get them out of those animations during combat situations. How to say this in a gentle manner. Animation in Arma 3 is a pain in a special place. To get the units in my videos to play the different animations, I primarily rely on two mods, 3Den Enhanced and Zeus Enhanced, and I highly recommend both of them. What's great about 3Den Enhanced is that it doesn't create mod dependencies, which means players and server doesn't need this mod to play the missions you create with it. On the other hand, Zeus Enhanced requires both the server and every player to have it installed. 3Den Enhanced is for mission creation in the Eden editor, while Zeus Enhanced is for Zeusing within a mission. With 3Den Enhanced loaded, you can easily assign animations to your units. Simply double left, click on the unit you want to animate and scroll down to the section called Object Ambient Animation. Open this section and choose your desired animation. That's it. The selected animation will play when the mission starts. If you want your units to react to threats, you can enable the Can Exit option. One limitation is that it locks the unit to the selected animation at start, so you cannot choose to make it active later in the mission. Nevertheless, it is perfect for creating ambient scenes. If you need to change a unit's animation in the middle of a mission, Zeus Enhanced comes to the rescue. To pose a unit, select the Zeus Enhanced module called Ambient Animation within the AI group of the Zeus menu. Then, click on the module and target the unit you want to animate. This will open a dialog box, offering a selection of different animations and the option to exit the animation in case of danger. This two methods is my go-to when setting up various poses for the units in my videos. It's the quickest and easiest way to achieve the desired animations. And that's it. I hope you now understand how to set a unit's animation through 3Den Enhanced and Zeus Enhanced. Thank you for watching. If you have questions or want
But what
more,
if I want the units to go into an animation during a mission and without me Zeusing it? What then?
you had to ask the painful question. Let's start with taking a look on the commands around animation of units in Arma 3. We can divide these commands up in three main groups: Ambient Animations, Actions, and Moves. In the group Ambient Animations, we have three functions. These functions will set the unit to play an ambient animation, which is a looped animation. The unit will lose control of itself, meaning it will not move or perform any other movement actions aside from playing the designated animation. As a player, you can force yourself to move, but you may end up in a situation where you are trying to play the animation you have been ordered to perform. The first function is Ambient Anim. Unit, Animation Set, Equipment Level, Snap to, Interpolate, Attach to Logic. Call BIS FNC Ambient Anim. Unit is where you place the scope for the unit you want to play in the animation. If used in the init field, the scope may be this, or if you have given the unit a variable name, that variable can be used. Animation set are where you place the parameter for what animation you want to be played. You can find a list of the alternative values on the BI community wiki. Equipment level. This sets the equipment of the unit. You can choose from different levels, like None, Light, Medium, Full, and ACES. Based on testing, I would just recommend using ACES. It seems like they are not working properly. ACES will leave the unit with the equipment they have, as is. Snap to if you want a unit to snap to an object, then you put in the scope to that object here. The scope may be this. If you are using the object's init field, the variable, if given a variable name, and etc. Interpolate, this is a boolean. So if do you want the beginning and end of the animation to interpolate, then set it to true. If not, then false, or leave it be. Only work on some animations, and some animations looks better without one. attached to logic. This is also a Boolean. This function will create a logic, and this variable asks you if you want the unit to be attached to this logic. Attached to it means it will not move away from its given position, as some of the animations will move the unit in a direction, so given a time, the unit may move away from the given position. Setting this to true will prevent that. This function is used to make a unit play an animation based on the value provided. The animation will continue playing until the unit is dead, or the function Ambient Anim Terminate has been called. The second function is Ambient Anim Combat. Unit, animation set, equipment level, condition, behavior. Call bis FNC Ambient Anim Combat. As with the previous function, unit is where you place the scope for the unit you want to play in the animation. If used in the init field, the scope may be this, or if you have given the unit a variable name, that variable can be used. Animation set are where you place the parameter for what animation you want to be played. You can find a list of the alternative values on the BI community wiki. One thing to have in mind, this function has less animation options than the Ambient Anim function. Equipment level, this set the equipment of the unit. You can choose from different levels, like none, light, medium, full, and ACES. I would just recommend using ACES. Condition, if the condition you set down turns true, the unit is going to leave its animation. This means that with these functions there are two ways for a unit to leave its animation: the optional way where you set a condition, and one default way. Who is always going to be there? Through getting into the combat status. You can set this condition to false, meaning that a unit can only leave its animation through getting in combat or through the terminate function. Behavior, this is what behavior you want the unit to have when exiting the animation. It's default to combat, but you can set it to be safe, aware, or another behavior. Unit call bis FNC Ambient Anim Terminate. This function can be used to terminate an animation started by Ambient Anim or Ambient Anim Combat. It can also terminate other animations too. Just a side note, 3D and Enhanced Animation Setup are based on the Ambient Animation Setup, with some modifications. In the group actions, we have 3 commands. These commands will command the unit to perform a specific action. An action is an animation often associated with in-game actions, such as walking, lying down, kneeling, or healing. These actions will not loop, so when the timer for the action runs out, the unit may end up in a final pose or return to a normal stance. Another action can terminate the animation. For example, moving around can interrupt some actions, while others will continue to play. The first command is playAction, unit. playAction, action. Unit is where we specify the unit to which we want to assign the animation. How you scope to the unit may vary. It can be done like this in an init field, using a variable if one exists, and so on. playAction is the command that queues an action to be played. When it's the turn for this action to be executed, there will be a smooth transition from the previous animation to the new one. Action is where you specify the name of the action you want to be played. You can find a list of these actions on the BI community wiki. The second command is playActionNow. Unit, playActionNow. Action, playAction. Now has the same setup as the previous command. The only difference between this command and the previous command is that this one will put its action first in the animation queue. The third command is switchAction. Unit, switchAction, action. SwitchAction has the same setup as the 2 previous commands. The difference between this and the 2 previous commands are that this command will fire the action immediately without no smooth transition. These actions can be terminated by the use of the Ambient Anim Terminate function. In the group moves, we also have 3 commands. These commands will command the unit to perform a specific move. A move is the base animation, and both the actions and the ambient animations are moves. These animations will not loop, similarly like actions, so when the timer for the move runs out, the unit will freeze up in a final pose, or not. Unit, playMove, move. Unit is where we specify the unit to which we want to assign the animation. How you scope to the unit may vary. It can be done by using the scope, this in an init field, using a variable if one exists, and so on. playMove is the command that cues a move to be played. When it's the turn for this move to be executed, there will be a smooth transition from the previous animation to the new one. Move is where you specify the name of the move you want to be played. You can find a list of these moves on the BI community wiki. Unit playMoveNow move. playMove now has the same setup as the previous command. The only difference between this command and the previous command is that this one will put its move first in the animation queue. Unit switchMove move. switchMove has the same setup as the two previous commands. The difference between this and the two previous commands are that this command will fire the move immediately without no smooth transition. Moves can also be terminated by the use of the Ambient Anim terminate function. So, those were the commands. Now, I hope you have a basic understanding of how to set them up, because now I'm going to ruin that. First, let's take a closer look at the ambient animation group, the two commands that add an animation to a unit. Remember that I mentioned they also create a game logic? If you place this function in the init field, without preventing it from being executed on every computer, you will encounter a situation where every player adds a new game logic on the server. Using remote exec call will also have the same spawning problem. If you can execute these two functions without remoting them, then I would advise against using them. To avoid this problem, with the init field, one can use this setup. If local, this, then, this, the other parameters you want. Call BIS FNC ambient anim. This will fire the code only if the unit is local. The next thing we are going to look at applies to all the groups, and that's the global effect. Yes, these commands have a global effect, but to make it work, the unit needs to be local on the device that fired the script. If the unit is local on the server and one of the players uses the playMove command, the unit will enter that animation only for that player. However, for everybody else, they will not see this animation. The same applies if the server uses a playMove command for one of the players. Since players will always be local on their own device, this animation command will not be registered. To address this, we can use remote exec to execute the script from one device to everybody else, so that the unit performs that animation for everyone. A remote exec setup for switchMove will look like this: unit, move, remote exec, switchMove, 0. These setups works for both the actions and moves groups. The third issue concerns join in progress. If we set up the animation to be triggered through the init field when people join, this may lead to animation disparities when people join in progress. The script is going to be executed for them, and they will see the units play the animation, possibly in a situation where the others don't. The same situation may also happen if we set the remote exec to be put in the join in progress queue. Similarly, one can encounter a situation where the units don't play an animation for the players who joined in later. However, for the players who were on the server when the script was called, the animation is played. This is a harder nut to crack, and sometimes you just have to acknowledge that you can't include everyone.
Okay, 3 issues, we can deal with it.
I'm not finished. As I said, this is a pain. So far, we have discussed creating logic, commands with a global effect, but need to be called on that device, or they will work as local, and the problems with join in progress. Now, let's delve into animations not working. This mainly applies to the actions and moves groups. Let's take the moves group as an example. See this list, all the moves you have before you. Did you know that not all of them work with both playMove, playMoveNow, and switchMove? Some of these animations may function with playMove, but not with the switchMove command. Unfortunately, there is no clear indication of which move works with which command. But then we have a new layer of complexity. Some of these animations may depend on whether the unit has a primary weapon, secondary weapons, or no weapons at all. To further complicate matters, some animations may or may not work if you have disabled AI anim enabled. There's also the issue of some animations needing to be attached to something and others that only work for players or NPCs. Now, how many if-then situations do you have now? You see, it's painful. But with this in mind, making something may be a little easier, because understanding these shortcomings will help you navigate them when you encounter them. However, it may be helpful to ask yourself, does this animation add something to the mission, and is it worth the effort? For example, if you want the mission to start with an animated briefing, does it need to be done on the server? Or can you create a video of it in single player and play the video at the start? For example, like what I teach about in this tutorial. And that's it. That was my talk about animation, and I hope that you now have a slightly better understanding of what you should and should not do when you want to add an animation to a character. Thank you for watching. If you have questions or want more, feel free to leave a comment about it.